This is a quick video to explain brioche stitch in terms that might make more sense to people who are very visual and like to imagine what things look like. So here I am, I'm about to start row 1 of my pattern. And in this particular pattern that I do in my brioche class, I can tell that because there's just one plain stitch here before the cross stitch. Now, Nancy Marchant suggests that we think of these crossed stitches as a stitch with a shawl on its shoulders. That's where the yarn over wraps over this previously slipped stitch. I'm going to then take that one step further and say that the plain stitches are naked stitches. They don't have shawls on. You can also think of them as solo stitches if you want to. Now, as I start the row in this particular pattern, again as written for my class, we're going to slip the first stitch purlwise. Here we are, we have that stitch with a shawl on its shoulders. And that means we're going to brioche knit it. Because we've got that 2 crisscross strands, we need to do the brioche knit. Next up, we have a naked stitch. It does not have a shawl, so we need to give it a shawl. So we're going to bring the yarn to the front. We're going to slip that stitch, and then as we do the next brioche knit, the working yarn is going to wrap over that slip stitch, giving it a shawl. So then once we've done that, you can see that stitch that had been naked, the third stitch in, now has its shawl on. Here we have another naked stitch, so we're going to bring the yarn to the front, slip that stitch, and then as we brioche knit our next cross stitches over here, it's going to give a shawl to the slipped stitch. So if I put this down in the middle of the row and I pick it up, that will tell me that I need to do the yarn over, yarn to the front, slip one yarn over here, because this is a naked stitch. You notice I kind of mooshed these apart because they were getting a little jumbled. I just spread them apart, and then you should be able to see pretty clearly which stitches are naked and which ones have their shawls, because there's still a nice space in between the stitches, but where you've got the stitch with the extra wrap, they'll be a little too close to each other. And here, you know, it's moved a little bit, but if you wiggle it, they overlap even more. So feel free to give it a little wiggle if you need to. So there's my yarns in the front, slip one, brioche knit. Here's my little naked stitch, yarn to the front, slip one, and it will get its new shawl as we do a brioche knit all the way to our end. Naked stitch, yarn to the front, slip it, and then it'll get wrapped up in its shawl as we go to brioche knit afterwards. Again, here they're a little jumbled up. I'm just going to separate them out, and then it's clear to see that this is a naked stitch. My yarn's already in the front, so there's my slip one. That's my brioche knit and my crisscross stitches. And the very end of the row here, I'm just going to do a knit one. Now, if you're doing this to color brioche, it's going to be similar. I'm in the middle of my knit round here. And so again, you can see I've got my naked light color stitch, and then I have my dark color stitch with a light color shawl, naked light color stitch, and so on. It's a little easier to see when you've got it like this in the 2 color, I find. So here I'm going to bring my yarn to the front. I'm going to slip that naked stitch over, and then as I do my brioche knit, it's getting its shawl. And when you're working in the round, of course, one color, in this case the dark color, is always for knitting, and the light color will be always for purling. And you can start seeing it as your pattern starts showing up. You can see those dark color stitches. They look like knits as they face you, and that's another clue that this is going to be a brioche knit rather than a brioche purl. And here they're a little jumbled up. I'm just going to give them some space and tell that this is the naked stitch ready to slip it. It'll get its shawl as I do my knit. So hopefully that helps just to picture the stitches as little people who are either clothed or not clothed. It can help a lot just to do it for a while and see what it looks like and create a little visual library of what things are looking like. But we're always heading for a goal where on both your needles you alternate naked stitches and stitches with their shawls. It's true on both sides, just the color is different here because these are stitches previously worked with my light color and these are stitches that I just worked with my dark color.